Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're going to lift the surprise that surrounds the setup of this table over there. So stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, Linsey Pollak.
Thank you very much. I think I have to say, though, about this, it wasn't a Scottish invention. The bagpipe, in fact, there are more than 235 different types of bagpipes around the world. This is the most recent. This is the Australian kitchen glove bagpipe. So, disrupting expectations, which is the sort of the topic of this little section here. And probably the best way to disrupt expectations is to get rid of expectations. And the reality is that all of us have been in that beautiful state of being free of expectations, and it's when we were kids, very little kids, when we were babies. It's as adults that we unfortunately take things for granted. We have these expectations which really constrains our thinking and our ability to innovate. And for many, many years I've used music as an analogy, because music is a great predictor what goes on in society rather than just being descriptive. It's actually quite prescriptive. And so I love using just the technology of making instruments from really simple things. Initially just to show everyone that we're all creators, we're all innovators, we're all musicians. And that rubber glove bagpipe is just one example, and I do a whole little 10-minute series that we haven't got enough here, which just starts with the air coming out of the balloon and going on a little 10-minute journey, how we then take that further. But I'm going to go into the garden and use a bit of garden hose for the next instrument. I'm just going to put on actually a saxophone mouthpiece with a little microphone, and I'm going to turn it into two different clarinets, but first of all, I might just get a little bit of a groove going. That's it. Thank you. So, well, I could talk a lot about those instruments, but we don't have time because I actually want to move on to the next one. But basically, again, it's getting rid of expectations about what certain materials are used for. And probably one of the greatest expectations about materials is the expectation of using a certain material for food, like the carrot. But I haven't brought this along to eat, I've actually brought this along to turn into a musical instrument. And I've been doing actually this for many years all around the world, turning carrots into clarinets. But just recently, and unfortunately I can't claim the credit for this, but Yamaha in their laboratories have sort of jumped really quite a huge barrier in inventing a whole different instrument. Probably the first major sort of change in wind instruments since Adolf Sax in the late 1800s. And they found a way to create a saxophone from a cylindrical tube rather than a conical tube. Now this might not be particularly interesting to all of you, but just wait till you hear it. Anyway, I sort of grabbed onto this idea, and this is very recent. This is only a few months ago that this sort of was released. And I've been making clarinets out of carrots then I thought, now I can make saxophones out of carrots. So I'm going to just take you through the process. And this is the first time I've made this particular instrument in front of an audience, although I've made hundreds of carrot clarinets, and in fact last year we were in Amsterdam and we broke the world record. We didn't break it, we created it for the largest number of, it's in the Guinness Book of Records, it's the largest number of carrot clarinet made and played in 1 hour. It was 275. Anyway, I'm going to show you a totally brand new instrument. This is what I call the silly sax. It's C-Y-L-I-S-A-X. It's this, as in cylindrical. So the cylindrical sax. So first of all, I'm just going to cut this carrot to length. This is the old version. That's the carrot clarinet measuring stick. This is the silly sax measuring stick. So I'm just going to now cut it exactly to length. And now the tricky part. Now, this is the new, very special innovation. I'm going to cut a socket into the bottom of this carrot. Because I have, to make things quicker, another pre-drilled carrot here. And I'm going to cut a plug on the end of this one. Why has he done that? I'm going to now cut a thread onto the top. I'll have to take this over to China. The year before last, I was in Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, doing the carrot clarinet. You're right, the culture there is way ahead of ours. I was in a 2,000-seat auditorium. The lights go out, but it doesn't go dark because 75% of the audience were on their iPhones for the whole performance. And so you're in the dark, and the only people you can see are the people who are taking no notice of you. So very, very interesting progression. Okay, so I've now got to put the thread on the other side. This is my favourite bit. A friend of mine sort of took the carrot clarinet idea and asked if they could use it as for a band that they had over in WA. And I said, yeah, sure, because I'm all about sharing. I've put all the measurements up on YouTube. If you want to make your own carrot clarinet, you just have to type in make your own carrot clarinet. But as a wonderful gift, after a few years later, in the mail suddenly appeared these two great tools. Her friend was a wonderful sort of engineer and maker of wonderful things, and said, one day you might want to put two carrots together. So this is the moment. Look at that. Okay, so why did I want to do that? Well, I want to do it because I need the length for this particular one. So I've got all of the finger holes marked, but before I do, I'll change the drill. 7mm drill for the finger holes. And now I'm going to just mark the position of those finger holes. So the carrot clarinet's actually pretty quick to make. I can do it in the space of a 5-minute TED talk. This takes a little bit longer. So 6 finger holes, just marking, they actually have to be pretty exactly spaced. So the bottom note will be middle C. And now drill out those finger holes. Five, 6. Clean out the bore a little bit. Let's clean it out a little bit more. Okay. Now here's the innovation. Here's the mouthpiece, but I've got this little tube that comes out of it, and that's what's going to turn it into a virtual saxophone. Just check that it's still clear. It's looking pretty good. That goes into the top. Now I've got this little tube plugged at the moment, so it's going to give me, it's going to still behave like a clarinet. Let's have a listen. But now we're going to totally change that. We're going to, and this is the difference, I'm going to pull out this plug. It's been jammed in a little bit too tightly. Make it airtight. So this little tube now is open, and let's have a listen to the sound. I'm going to disrupt your expectations about this as well. This is Mr. Curly. Thank you.
Lunch.
You on the Sarva mate? We're in competition? Well, I think you blokes are going to get a bit of a chance than I am. I don't think there's too many good boards.
Thanks for that. It's a good job.